Hi, welcome to the instruction video for the 5x7 Bead Brave Cardinal kit. Now this kit does have some prerequisites and some objectives. One is that you must have completed a level 1 or level 2 bead mosaic kit because we will not be going over those basic instructions in this video. So there is an assumption that you already know how to do a basic kit and you will be using those instructions at the end of this video. So these objectives are listed here on your instruction sheet, and there's also a list of materials that are included with this kit, and the materials and supplies that are included are done specifically for this kit. And this is a level 4 difficulty level, so this is definitely a more advanced kit that's going to take some extra time. Now the first step in this kit is going to be to paint the background of your bird. And what this is going to do is help camouflage any gaps between the bugle beads. Bugle beads do not tend to lay perfectly flat, so you're going to want to get the entire bird painted, let it dry completely, and then you're going to add his eyeball. And I like to add the eye first because then they can watch you put them together and it kind of holds us a little bit more accountable. Just a personal thing. If you want to add the eye later, you can do that as well. After the eye, we are going to get started on his tail feathers. And for the tail, you are going to be using 25 millimeter long red bugle beads. And these are just wonderful. But when you're working with long beads, there's a challenge because they don't always fit everywhere. And so one of the challenges with this is trying to get them to fit exactly the way you want. And we are going to be using some smaller beads to help us supplement that process. But when you're working on his tail, you are going to use the long beads, but then you're going to create a line right down the middle using some of your smaller beads, your size 12 beads. And that is going to allow us to add some depth to our piece. We're also going to add some smaller beads on the top to make up for that little extra bit of gap space. And these are going to kind of be covered up a little bit, so don't worry about the fact that they're a different thickness or that they are shorter and that anybody's going to notice. So you're not going to have to worry about that at all. Now that the tail is done, we're going to continue with the belly part of the bird. And what I'd like you to do is put a pool of glue down and then take the smaller red beads and put a line of beads up along his chest and belly area. And this will be a nice containing area and one where we can start piling the beads. Now here you're going to use the longer beads and start to overlap them just a little bit. You're going to overlap the end on top of the existing beads. Now you'll see a close-up of this. So what you want to do is only cover the tip of the bead that's underneath it. And what I recommend is to pick up your bead, dip it in the glue, and then set it into place. And that allows you to get glue on the tip, the front tip and the back tip of the bead so that you can start to set them in place. Now, if you notice on this video, I tend to wipe the tip of my tweezers a lot because they do get filled and goopy with the glue. So, if you need to, just keep a paper towel with you. I usually just wipe them on my fingers. But usually when you see the tip of those tweezers go off the screen, it's because I'm wiping them. So here's a close-up of what those should look like. You are just laying them over the tops of them. You're not covering the whole bead, not even half the bead, just the tip of it. That's where the red paint comes into play because the gaps that you see now will not show later once everything is in place because that red paint is going to camouflage it. So just keep working your way up. What I recommend is to scatter the long beads with the short red beads. And that way you get a little bit more of a natural effect. You're going to put some short beads in the middle of those long beads. Then when you get about halfway to 3/4 up, you're going to start to taper the layering effect off and start laying those beads flat again. And what this is going to do is going to mimic the part of the bird that is a smooth chest area. So as you start to get up higher, you're going to start to transition from layered beads to straight. And you want the staggered effect as well. You want to continue that because it makes it look more natural. But you're going to dip it in the glue, put it in. Try not to get too goopy, but don't worry if you see white glue showing because that is going to go clear. And you will have the opportunity to use some of those small slivers and broken beads that are in these things. You're going to use those for touch-ups, and you're going to use those to put them into the little bitty places that are missing spots. See, like I just did right there. So don't get rid of the little broken beads. They actually serve a wonderful purpose, and you're going to lay these flat until you get all the way up to the black area. Then we're going to let that dry for a little while, and then we're going to start with the red-black beads. So these are size 9 millimeter, and they are half red and half black. The cool thing about that is that they look like a dark red. So you're going to do the same thing with this. You're going to start to overlay the very first row of beads with a part of it sticking over the top of the beads that are underneath it. It works with long ones, and it also works with short beads to do that. As is shown here on this close-up, you're just covering the little tip. So go ahead and continue to build your way up and work your way up this bird from the bottom up. It's kind of like working with roof shingles, right? You're layering them just like you would a roof shingle. Try not to create stripes. So you want to put some up and some down. You want to stagger them so that it looks more natural. If you lay them all in one line and then lay the next line, then they're going to end up looking like the bird is striped when it's over. So try to be a little unnatural, what you feel like is unnatural with the placement so that it will look more natural later on. As you continue to work your way up, just again, remember to keep the staggering in effect. When you start to get up to the top where the squiggly line is, you're going to finish off the red and black beads, which are layered, and you're going to continue the small red beads, plain red beads, and you're going to start to bend these. Now, this is a transition area where you're going to go from layered to flat, and you're also going to go from going straight up and down to leaning toward the left. So you're going to want to be careful with this area. What I'm doing here is I'm dipping the glue into the beads into the glue area, and then I'm laying them and I'm starting to bend them. So if you notice, they're starting to go in a different direction. Yes, you will. This type of thing is going to want to leave gaps, and that's where the individual bead placement is important, that you do what you can to not leave gaps in areas like that. But just start bending them and moving them in the direction that the feathers need to go, placing them one at a time in this area. And when you get up toward his face, you're going to kind of blend those long beads, the short beads, in with the longer beads. You're going to want to stop right at the end of the black line because his face is going to be done with seed beads rather than bugle beads, and that'll be done at the very, very end. So you don't have to worry about getting the line perfectly straight because those seed beads are going to fill in a lot of those what are considered gaps for you. So once it meets up, you're going to continue to go ahead with his head. And if you noticed, I haven't really touched the long beads because I want to save some of those for the top cap of his head because, you know, cardinals have that tall feathers on the top of their head that they like to stick up. So I like to leave those long beads for that, and then I just blend them in with it together. Once all his feathers are complete, we're going to get started on his beak. And you have a group of copper colored beads for this, or bronze colored beads. And you're going to lay these one at a time over the clear area. Just lay some glue down and start laying these into place. You'll have plenty left over. And we are going to leave his face, the black beads, empty. You're going to do that with the skinny glue technique that you'll do with the background, and that'll come up very quickly and very easily. But you're going to get his beak done just like this. Make sure his eyeball is glued into place before you get started on the next step. Now the next thing is put those gemstones in the centers, and then you can start putting the art edge on. And this section we're going to go very quickly because this is the standard art edge technique that you're going to be using for the outside edges and the flowers. And you should know how to do that because you've already done one of our beginner kits. So I'm not going to review that. But if you need to get any of those instructions downloaded, you can do that on our beadmosaic.com website. Or you can also watch the video for the entry-level instructions, and it'll talk to you about how to lay your art edge and also use your skinny glue to glue the seed beads in the remaining areas. Once all the art edge is down, it should look just like this, and then you're going to add all of those seed beads, glue them down, and once it's dry, it will look like this. And I hope that you have enjoyed putting together this beautiful Cardinal bead mosaic kit, and I hope that you will try a few more of our Bead Brave line kits. You can always go to beadmosaic.com to get all of your supplies and tools for future projects, and I hope you join us again for another Bead Brave adventure.